call it, the program jumps to that address and starts running the function. But after it's done, it needs to know where to jump back to. That's why we store the return address on the stack. So let's add that to our diagram too. I'll mark return addresses with a special symbol to make it clearer. Then, inside the function, we create a parameter that also goes on the stack. Then we make a variable a. Notice now we've got two variables named a on the stack, but they belong to different functions, so I'll mark which one is which. We enter an if statement, and inside it we declare another variable that goes on the stack too. Then we hit a for loop, and at the start we create a variable I. It runs 10 times, but once the loop ends, I is destroyed and cleared from the stack. Then the if block ends, so that variable is destroyed too. Next, we create variable c, and once we hit the end of the function, all its local variables get destroyed in reverse order. So c goes first, then that function's a, then the parameter b. After that, the program looks at the stack, grabs the return address, jumps back to it, and pops it off the stack. Then, back in main, we create variables c and d. When main ends, those variables also get destroyed, again in reverse. D, C, then the array, and finally A. And that's basically how the stack works. In most modern operating systems like Windows, the default stack size is about 1 megabyte. But it really depends on your platform, compiler, runtime, and thread type. That means you can only have up to 1 megabyte worth of local variables and return addresses before running out of space. Now, you might be thinking, wait, isn't that tiny? Sure, 1 megabyte sounds small compared to your 16 gigabyte or 32 gigabyte of RAM, but in practice, it's more than enough. Theoretically, with 1 megabyte of stack space, you could create around 250,000 int variables in one function before running out, or a single array with 250,000 int elements. As for function calls, you could go about 30,000 calls deep before hitting the limit, way more than you'll ever need in most normal code. But yes, you can overflow the stack. For example, if you write an infinite recursion, a function that just keeps calling itself forever, your program will crash. Why? Because each call adds a return address to the stack and eventually it fills up. When that happens, the program throws a stack overflow error. That's why we avoid infinite recursion and we don't put huge arrays on the stack. For that kind of thing, there's a different type of memory, the heap. And that brings us to the next kind of memory, the heap, also known as dynamic memory. Call it whatever you like. I usually go with heap. It works pretty differently from the stack. If you want to store something in the heap, you need to explicitly allocate memory for it. One of the ways to do that is using the new operator. So whenever you see new in your code, that line is reserving space in the heap. We'll go over the exact syntax in a future lesson, but here's the basic idea. You write new, then the type of variable you want to create. If it's an array, you also include the size. Then new gives you back the address of that memory block, so you can use it. But here's the thing, regular variables don't store memory addresses. That's what pointers are for. They look like this, int, asterisk, ptr, for example. We'll dive into pointers later, I promise. Sure, using the heap looks more complicated than just throwing a variable on the stack. So why bother? Well, here's why. The heap is huge. It's basically the rest of your system's available RAM. Say you got 16 gigabyte of RAM and you're only running one program. Maybe 1 megabyte is reserved for the stack, the rest is available for the heap. So when you need to store big things like 3D models, textures, or massive data structures, you go with the heap. Another advantage of the heap is that you get to decide exactly when your data gets created and destroyed. Take this example. I create a variable on the heap here. Then I work with it. Then I delete it right here. Nice and clean. If it were on the stack, it would stay alive until the function ends, even if I didn't need it that long. Same with arrays. Create it on the heap, use it, then delete it. Exactly when you're done. Not sooner, not later. But the heap also has downsides. One big one is that you have to delete stuff yourself. With the stack, variables are automatically cleaned up when the function ends. You don't have to worry about it, but if you forget to delete something from the heap, it just stays there, wasting memory until your program ends. That's called a memory leak. By the way, new isn't the only way to allocate memory on the heap. You can also use functions like malloc, calloc, reloc, or more advanced stuff like allocators, classes that manage memory for you. And then there are smart pointers like functions make unique or make shared that create them, that handle deletion for you. Don't worry, we'll cover all of that in future lessons. Hopefully I live long enough to teach you all of it. But for now, just remember this. The heap exists and it works differently from the stack. We'll be working with it in lesson 44. And the last type of memory is static memory. Static memory is the area where things like global variables, static local variables, static class members, and constants with external linkage, if they're not optimized away by the compiler, are stored. Let me say right away, I won't be showing static class members right now. We'll cover that in a separate lesson. Data in static memory is created only once, when the program starts. And it stays in memory the entire time the program is running. The computer frees static memory only after the program is closed. So who decides what goes into static memory? That's up to the compiler and the linker. They go through your files, analyze the data, and the compiler generates the corresponding machine code and memory sections. You'll already know what global variables are. Those go into static memory when the program starts. Let's focus more on static local data. When you create a variable, constant, or array inside a function, you can add the keyword static in front of it. Now, the variable will live in static memory. That means it'll exist even before the function is ever called. But, and this is important, it only gets initialized the first time you call the function. That's actually a common interview question. So let's break down this function. It has two variables, one static, the other on the stack. I print out their values, then increase them. In main, I call this function 5 times. What will show on the screen? If we run the program, here's what happens. The stack variable is created with a value of 10 every time we call the function. So you keep seeing the number 10. Then it gets increased by 1 and the function ends. And as you already know, when a function ends, its local variables are destroyed. So that variable gets destroyed every single time the function is called. That's why you keep seeing 10. But the static variable works differently. It gets initialized only once, the first time the function is called. Then it prints out 10, gets increased. On the second call, it's not re-initialized. It's already 11. You print that, increase again, and so on. That's the difference. Also, if you add the static keyword to global data, it means internal linkage, or in other words, the variable will only be visible inside that one file. But if you add static to local data, it means the variable will live in static memory. All string literals are also stored in static memory. So stuff like this and this, they live in static memory. Since they never change in the code, it makes sense to keep them in a place that lasts the whole time the program runs. What about other literals, like characters or integers? Those don't get stored anywhere. They're embedded directly into the machine code as immediate values or constants placed straight into CPU registers. So, how do you know when to use static memory instead of stack or heap? Here's my answer. Use static memory when the data needs to exist throughout the whole program, like global settings, state flags, counters, or if you need the data in lots of places or for the entire runtime, or if you want to save results between function calls, or for implementing patterns like singleton or global services. Why does C++ have 3 different types of memory instead of just one unified kind? Because each serves its own purpose with specific advantages and limitations. This design is intentional. It's what allows programs to be both fast and resource efficient. Now that you know the different types of memory, let's imagine what would happen if everything were forced into just one of them. If everything lived in the heap, then programs would run slower, since managing the heap takes more time. Also, memory leaks would become common if the programmer forgot to free memory manually, and tiny temporary variables would overload the memory manager unnecessarily. Okay, if everything lived on the stack, then you'd quickly run out of memory. The stack is limited and not meant for large data. Also, you couldn't create objects with unknown or flexible lifetimes. And then, dynamic data structures like linked lists or trees wouldn't be feasible. And in the end, if everything lived in static memory, then all data would exist for the entire runtime, even when it's no longer needed. Also, your code would lose flexibility and modularity, and multi-threading and reusable code would become much harder to manage. So C++ uses these 3 types of memory because each one solves a different problem. Stack, fast and temporary. Heap, flexible and long-lasting. Static, global and persistent. This separation is what makes C++ powerful, performant and predictable. And that's the end of this lesson. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, feel free to hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, donate via the link in the description, or become a channel sponsor to get access to practical lessons. Goodbye.